so to continue on what I was saying, we were trying to focus on making all of these changes into food production, how we focused on food, what was important, nutritional values, to paying attention to allergies and intolerances, and having the knowledge in order to do those things and know how to substitute and what to take away, and not have the dish suffer and not have the customer suffer as well for feeling that they could not experience our dishes, or the dining experience couldn't be as fulfilling as it would be for someone who does not have an allergy or intolerance. During all of these changes that were happening, one of the most influential chefs of the middle of the 20th century was Ferdinand Point. He had so many great ideas and great recipes and great influences, that he really kind of started a trend and a mental way of changing the way that chefs prepared food, and the ornamentation that really took it over the top that he was very fond of. He had so many apprentices that worked underneath him that ended up becoming really great stars of modern cooking that started with him. He was that foundation, and because they learned so much in the basics from him, they were able to really move up and take it to the next level. And to me, is one of the best examples of that, building that foundation and then being able to take it on and move it to bigger and better things. About this time, those chefs in that genre, for those generations, they were best known between the 60s and the 70s for a style of cooking called Nouvelle Cuisine. Nouvelle Cuisine was the rejecting of traditional principles and urging for more simpler, natural flavors and presentation to utilize the the cooking techniques. So this was the focus here, was to emphasize placing more of an artful plating presentation, to actually take the kitchen to a whole new level. We got to a point for the longest time that as a whole, the food industry would allow the front of the house, either your maitre d' or your head servers, would be responsible for finishing the last finishing garnishments on a plate. We took that responsibility back about this time in the 60s and 70s and allowed the chef to have the last hands on the plate and the last touch on the finishing touches on a presentation before it hits the table, instead of that being in the front of the house's responsibility. We took that back to the back of the house, and so that we could really add those little bit of extra attentive touches and flares that would need to be done at the end. Best achievements for Nouvelle Cuisine, I would probably say that, in my opinion, they have a permanent place in the classical traditions, but unfortunately, a lot of it has been lost or forgotten. Not a lot of documentation was being done at that time. Everything was kind of very by the seat of their pants, I gather. So a lot of things kind of got lost or dropped the ball on. So we really have very limited exposure of how far they took it with Nouvelle Cuisine. A lot of the best ideas and the most long-lasting accomplishments that came from classical training, because they had such a solid grounding in their basics that they were able to do so much more and so much to change the overall conception of what Nouvelle Cuisine ended up becoming. Unfortunately, we just don't have a lot to go with it, which is unfortunate. At the same time, when we were making this Nouvelle change, where we wanted to really focus on the ingredients that we were using and the embellishments that we are doing to those ingredients, we wanted to improve the cooking and improve the quality of the food. So this promoted a movement of focusing on our ingredients. And Alice Waters really had the best philosophy. Her philosophy was good food depends on good ingredients. And it is so true to that fact. Alice Waters wanted to really focus on more farm-to-table, fresh ingredients, freshest the better, free-ranged animals, grass-fed. She really wanted to know everything, where the food was coming from, how are the animals being taken care of before they go They come to her. Where are her eggs coming from? What do they feed the chickens in order for her eggs to be taste the way they do? She wanted to know all of this information and took the time to do it. She went to the farms. She asked the questions. She was exposed to it and was able to convey that information to her guests. It was well received, but only in her location. It wasn't something that was able to be spread and go globally, or at least nationally. And that was a shame. She was a little ahead of her time. And then Larry Faggione comes into play. He built a name for himself in New York City when he opened up his restaurant, and he put a lot of emphasis on good quality local ingredients. He really took it to the next level, made it a point to not only put his hands in the dirt and pull the vegetables out of the ground himself, but he made it a point to build a relationship with the farmers, with the butchers, with his dairy farmers, in order to get the best product possible at the best price possible. And it really holds true as to why he was given the name the godfather of American cuisine. His role really changed the way Americans eat today, truly. He embraced the virtues of national cuisine and used only seasonal local ingredients, beginning to the entire farm to table movement. He really took a philosophy, an idea, and took it to the next level, to where now it is so overrun with it. Also, we are starting to put more emphasis again on our ingredients. So that meant we were bringing the public, was able to benefit greatly from all of this effort that was being made. Supermarkets, as well as the restaurants, were able to get higher quality foods that weren't actually available 40 and 50 years ago. Many chefs were able to modify their cooking styles, where they were highlighting natural flavors and textures in their ingredients. Their menus were often simpler now for this very reason. They simplified their menu, but were able to really put a lot of emphasis on the dishes that they were making, and that spoke volumes. And about the same time, the international influence started to really boom. Travel became so much easier. New waves of immigrants from Europe to North America or from all around the world were coming in, and the restaurants of local, regional, different dishes were starting to pop in, and the awareness of these tastes of these regional dishes started to grow. And chefs started to want to have more knowledge of these traditional cuisines in order to take those other parts from Europe, Asia, Latin America, and elsewhere, and put them into their cuisine, into their dishes. So what they did is, by using these ingredients and techniques from one region or from an international cuisine, and then placing them into a single dish, they created fusion cuisine. Love it. I love fusion. So today's chefs were able to make good use of all of these ingredients and techniques that had started to become available from other countries and other influences. We were able to start practicing sous vide, which is the French term for under vacuum. We took a concept that was being done for packaging. Sous vide began as simply a method of packaging and storing food in vacuum seal bags. Well, a chef from one of our modern eras was wanting to explore ways of using this technique in order to control temperature and control the time with pressure. It was revolutionary. By taking this, we were taking familiar foods that were emerging and giving influences of new textures and flavors, and really taking it to the whole next level